It's a strange day today. World Cup final without England. To be honest, last night's match, that was what counted. Everything else is like a postscript, an afterthought. Also, tomorrow we have our first new Prime Minister in months. That'll be happening tomorrow. So there's a lot we could be talking about, but we're going to be talking about Jesus. Jesus, who is the same today, yesterday, and forever. People put their hopes in all sorts of things. Football teams, politicians, and they will always be let down because our hearts are made for Him. That's where our hope is. And if we hope for anything less, we'll always be disappointed. So today, we're looking at Jesus, our one true hope. And we're going to be carrying on looking at Mark's Gospel, as Jackie just read to us. And I think it's one of the most challenging Gospels, because the Jesus we meet in Mark's Gospel, I think, is strange in the sense that we can't fit Jesus into our categories. We cannot make him fit what we think he should be. We have to fit into his categories, and Mark makes that really clear. So today we're looking at a strange story, the healing of the blind man in Mark 8, and we're going to refer back to another healing in Mark 7 of a man who couldn't hear or speak. And we're going to look at both of those healings together. So we have a blind man and we have a deaf and mute man. And we're going to have eyes that can see and ears that can hear and tongues that are loosened to tell. And I think these stories tell us something really important about how Jesus interacts with us. And that's what I want us to unpack a little bit today. So Jackie read the passage from Mark 8. I want to just have a quick look at the one from Mark 7. So I'm just going to read through. This is Mark 7, 31 to 37. And you'll hear echoes of the reading that we just heard. Then Jesus left the vicinity of Tyre and went through Sidon, down to the Sea of Galilee and into the region of the Decapolis, the 10 cities. There some people brought to him a man who was deaf and could hardly talk, and they begged Jesus to place his hand on him. After he took him aside, away from the crowd, Jesus put his fingers into the man's ears. Then he spit and touched the man's tongue. He looked up to heaven and with a deep sigh said to him, Ephphatha, which means be opened. At this, the man's ears were opened, his tongue was loosened, and he began to speak plainly. Jesus commanded them not to tell anyone, but the more he did so, the more they kept talking about it. People were overwhelmed with amazement. He's done everything well, they said. He even makes the deaf hear and the mute speak. So we're going to look at both of these stories together. The first thing I want us to note, both of the stories are located. Both stories give us a location. A bit like Martin said last week about the two feedings of the 5,000 and the 4,000, the two locations are symbolic. There's a location of Tyre and Sidon and the Decapolis, the kind of pagan Gentile area, and there's Bethsaida, the Jewish area. So again, he's preaching to both. And this one, the Bethsaida one that we heard Jackie read, this was where the disciples had gone immediately after the feeding of the 5,000. And we heard last week how Jesus was exasperated with the disciples. In Mark 8, he said, "Do you still not see or understand?" So what does Jesus do? He takes them back. They go back to Bethsaida. It's as if he's trying to make sure they get the message. You didn't get it, right, let's go back to square one. Let's see if you get it this time. And because they couldn't see, Jesus makes a blind man see. Now, the giving of place names here is really important. Jesus is not some ethereal, wafty, floaty, spiritual entity. He is earthed. He is earthy. He is here in real places. We don't need to be in some special place or in some special spiritual state to meet with Jesus. We should not make that mistake. Jesus comes to us where we are, even in Newcastle under Lyme. He comes to us in the real circumstances of our life, and we don't have to make ourselves something nice and presentable for Jesus. We don't need to do a quick, speedy tidy up of our life, throwing things behind the sofa of our life and making it all look nice. We don't need to do that. There's an old English word for doing that. Do you know the old English word for tidying when you see someone come into your house? Scurryfunge. Jesus don't need no scurryfunge. You do not need to tidy your life before Jesus comes. You just need to open the door. Whatever state your life is in, he will enter. Okay? You cannot shock Jesus with the state of your life. You cannot shock Jesus. You cannot surprise him. You cannot scandalize him. He knows. He's seen. You just need to open the door and let him in, however bad things might look to you. He knows. And the good thing is, when we invite Jesus in, he comes in with his sleeves rolled up, ready for action. He comes in to change things. So that's the first thing. Jesus will enter if we just open the door, however our life is. The second thing, both of these men were brought to Jesus by their friends. So in Mark 7:32, it says, there some people brought to him a man who was deaf and could hardly talk. In Mark 8:22, they came to Bethsaida, and some people brought a blind man and begged Jesus to touch him. We don't actually know very much about the men themselves. It doesn't tell us whether these men had faith. But the friends clearly did. Clearly. So, do we bring people to Jesus? Do we bring people to Jesus? Do we have enough faith, not just for ourselves, but to bring other people to Jesus because we know that his touch can make a difference to their life? Do we bring people to Jesus? And when people look at us, are we crystal clear so they can see Jesus in us? This is important. Do we bring people to Jesus in prayer? Do we pray for people? And when we pray, do we expect things to happen? Because these friends certainly did. And I think you can kind of imagine them discussing it. Should we? Should we bring him? Well, it might be a bit tricky. Billy here can't see where he's going. Might not be possible. Is it worth it? There's going to be a crowd. Do you think we should? Oh, it's worth a try. Go on, let's try. Let's have a go. That's faith. That's enough faith. The other thing here with other people is how entwined with other people our encounter with Jesus is. When people first enter a church, it's people they meet first. It's people. And the first thing people want to know when they come in is, are the people there going to be friendly? Will they welcome me? Are they normal? That's a big question. So when people come into this church, do we welcome them? Do we have space for the stranger who's just seeking? Because you can bet our welcome will make a difference. I don't know about you, but I know when I became a Christian, I was accepted by believers before I accepted belief. I was accepted by believers before I accepted belief. So we need to welcome the searchers. The next thing we get here is an insight into how Jesus works with the people who come to him. So in the first passage, it said Jesus took the man aside away from the crowd. And in chapter 8, it said he took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village. I wonder if you picked up that phrase that I did. He took him by the hand outside the village. I think that's beautiful. Jesus takes this man who can't see where he's going by the hand. And he does this in other healings too. Jesus knows our limitations. He knows that we sometimes can't see where we're going. He knows that we are blind. And in those moments, he will take us by the hand if we let him. How loving, how gracious. And also, Jesus preserves these men's dignity. He takes one away from the crowd. He takes the other outside the village. The village is important. We'll come back to that. But the important thing is he's taking them away from everybody else. He's taking them away from what was familiar before this. He's taken them away from what they've come to know. He's taken them into somewhere else that might feel a little bit risky or a little bit uncomfortable. But he knows what he's doing. He leads them away from the crowd and away from the village. And what does Jesus do there? Does he take them apart so he can judge them? What have you done to get like this? How have you made a mess of your life like this? Does he scold them? Absolutely not. He does not do that. Mark 7:34. He looked up to heaven, and with a deep sigh, he said, "Be opened." With a deep sigh. This word, the word that is translated in English as a deep sigh, is a really important word in the Bible. It's a profound word. It's a word that means a moan or a groan or something that comes from your very deepest guts. We might say heart, but it's guts. It's from your very inner essence. And it's a word that is also translated as a complaint. It's a word that was used of the people during the Exodus when they were complaining to God. It encapsulates a sense of injustice, of unfairness. This was not how things were meant to be. This wasn't what we understood was going to happen. This was not the intention. Come on, God, put it right. Do something, act, help. You are the only one who can change this. All in that phrase, with a deep sigh. Jesus doesn't judge these people. He looks at them and says, this is not how it's meant to be. This is not who you are meant to be. So when Jesus comes into your life, into your untidy house and your dark, unaired room, what does he do? He gives a deep sigh. This wasn't meant for you. This isn't what you were meant for. You're worth more than this. So much more. Like the woman who touched his garment and he calls her daughter or son. You're not meant to be living like this. Come on, let's sort this out. Let's sort you out. Let's get you how you're meant to be. With a deep sigh. Now that's good news. This is good news. All of us can come as we are, not to judgment, but to the mercy that will put us back to how God intended us to be. But I wonder how you feel about the next bit. Mark 7:33. After he took him aside, away from the crowd, Jesus put his fingers into the man's ears. Then he spit and touched the man's tongue. Were you listening to that reading, or were you thinking, oh, that's lovely, that's beautiful, that's the gospel? Jesus is strange here. He's doing something that is not normal run-of-the-mill stuff. And by the way, if you come for prayer afterwards, do not worry. Okay? And in Mark 23, it says the same thing. He took the blind man by the hand, led him outside the village. When he had spit on the man's eyes and put his hands on him, what? Jesus takes these poor men who've had a hard life. He leads them aside and he spits on them. He spits on them. And then he sticks his fingers in their ears. What is going on? When I have a wound, what I want is for someone to say, oh, poor you. Poor Dave. Oh, come here. Sit down. Let me get you a cup of tea. Oh, my poor little soldier. Oh. And that's what I want. I want pity. Top up my self-pity, please, more. What does Jesus do? He sticks his fingers into the man's ears. Jesus will not pity you, and he will not pet you. He will not coddle you, and he will not affirm you in your self-pity. That is not what Jesus is about. He will not patronize you, and he will not infantilize you. He will not do that. And he will not say everything is okay when it's clearly not okay. That is not the truth. Rather, he sticks his finger right into the wound. Into the place of brokenness, Jesus puts his finger. Now, at this point, these two men have a choice. Either it's like, well, my life's been pretty bad up until now. My friends say this bloke might help. Well, let's see how it goes. Or, my life's been hard. It's not fair. Nobody's understood. And now here's this bloke poking me and spitting at me. I'm off. We all have that choice. We all have that choice. But I think if we stick it out, Jesus is going to be honest with us and he's going to speak truth to us. It may not always be easy, but it will be for our healing. And he will put his finger right on the thing that we don't want anyone to touch. We bend and twist and turn away to protect ourselves. And he says, okay, this is interesting. What about this then? And he will touch it. Now, at that moment, that might hurt. When we come to Jesus, sometimes it might start to feel like actually things feel worse. Because we hide things away because it kind of works. We try and forget they're even there. And for a little while, it kind of helps. But the problem is, if you hide wounds away, they will fester and they will rot and they will stink and they'll become infected. And Jesus will touch them. He doesn't do this to expose us or to humiliate us. Remember, he took these people away from prying eyes first. But he will touch on the areas of your life that need to be healed. He will point at the relationships that you know are not healthy. He will touch on the things that you do when no one else is looking. And he will touch on the thoughts you'd never say out loud for other people to hear. He will touch those things. But he will do it with a deep sigh. You're not meant for this. You're meant for so much more. You're a prince. You're a princess of the kingdom. What are you doing here with the pigs and the filth? We're back to the prodigal son. He's not going to pity you. Jesus is going to change you. That's the good news. And when he touches us, he is putting things back in place, pushing the pieces back into where they should be. We've heard this a few times over the last few weeks, if we've had ears to hear. We can't mess around anymore. The time for messing around is over. The time for games is over. If we want to be agents of change in this world and bring the kingdom where the kingdom is needed, we cannot sidle up next to our brokenness and our sin anymore. We have to open it up and let Jesus do that kind of probing and healing. We do not have time to mess around and hold on to those things anymore. But it's okay. You are putting yourself into the hands of the Maker. Now, there's a really good saying based on good biblical principles. What is denied cannot be healed. So don't deny anything. Be honest with Jesus. This is my life. I don't need to tidy it up. You know already. This is where I am. Let him touch it. Let him heal it, and don't walk away. But what about the spit? What about the spit? Now, being good pottery's people, we know about this. Isaiah 64. We are the clay, you are the potter. We are all the work of your hand. What do you need to reshape clay? You need water. You need to moisten the clay. I wonder if what Jesus is doing here, he's reshaping the clay. He's remaking these men. Come to Jesus. Let him touch the weak points of your life, and he will reshape you. He will remake you into who you are meant to be. You don't have to. You could say no. You'll become dry and hard and angular and difficult to fit and breakable, yeah. If we're honest, we all need to be healed. We all need to be molded to who God wants us to be. Verse 23, 8:23. Jesus then says to the man, "Do you see anything?" Now this remolding, this healing, this putting back together, sometimes it's a gradual process. Do not be discouraged if things don't happen all at once. Jesus does things gradually because he loves us, and he knows sometimes it might take a few steps or it might take a bit of time. He checks with the man. He doesn't necessarily expect it all to happen at once. Jesus knows you. He knows the world. He knows what it's like to be a human. So sometimes the changes that Jesus makes are slow and incremental and gradual. But if you follow him, you might start to see these changes taking place. Bit by bit, you might start to find that the old things that you were once comfortable with now start to feel a bit off. The old behaviors that you excused in yourself, you might start to see are a bit unfulfilling now. And what was once important starts to just look pretty empty. That's when you're starting to see with healed eyes. You're starting to become who Jesus would have you be. And I love in this story, whereas the man is starting to see, first he sees trees, but who is the first person that this man sees? Jesus. Who was the first person that the deaf man heard speak? Jesus. It's like the recreation. Let there be life. I don't know about you, I love those videos of people when they put on the colorblind glasses, if they've been colorblind, and then they can see the world for the first time, or they have cochlear implants turned on and they can suddenly hear. The first person this man saw was Jesus standing there. The first person the other man heard was Jesus. The first thing he spoke about was Jesus. This is beautiful. Jesus wants us to be changed all the way through. Not just some surface level. He loves us too much for that. He wants a remolding, a reshaping, a remaking, a recreation of our lives. Then, what does Jesus say to this man in chapter 8? He says to him, 8:26, he sent him home saying, don't even go into the village. Don't even go into the village. He sends him home. He sends him back to where he belongs, not to where he's been. If there are things in our life that have harmed us and hurt us and damaged us, Jesus, who loves us, is adamant. Do not go back to them. Don't go back to the village. Don't even go near the village. Go home. Move on. Now that can be hard, but it's like the prodigal son all over again. Go home. Don't go back. So some of us might now need to avoid certain settings from now on. Some of us might need to adjust certain settings from now on. Some of us might need to leave relationships. Some of us might even need to leave jobs. Some might need to watch their thought patterns. Some might need to start questioning how they feel. But do not go back to the village. You are a new person now. You don't need to go back to what was keeping you blind and deaf and dumb. So, what does this mean for us? You don't need to tidy your life. You don't need to have everything in place. You just need to open the door and let Jesus come in, however much of a mess your life is. And when he comes in, he's not going to judge you. He's not going to pet you or pity you either. He's going to speak words of truth. And he's going to touch those areas that need to be healed. But he will reshape you. He will remake you. He will make you who you are meant to be. Someone you could only imagine. But guess what? God imagined you before you were born. He knows who you're meant to be. So when that happens, do not go back to the village. You are a new creation. So live as a new creation. So let's have Martin come back up. And Joel will have the music. I'd like to give you an opportunity. We will have the chapel here, which is a spit-free zone. And we have the altar rail here. If you feel you need to do business with Jesus, if you feel there's something that you know that he's touching, that he's putting his finger on, something you're ashamed of, don't be ashamed. Just come and get it sorted. Let Jesus touch those things. Let him heal those things. Because you cannot believe how much he loves you. You cannot believe how much he loves you.